Please do not disturb the lift. It would be a waste. I have no music to play while you descend. Use the silence to contemplate your futile, brutal existence.
Turrets! Let us spin their numbers. I'll need a combat squad, 5 men. I can spare 3 men.
Brother!
A fine weapon. I am bravely injured, brothers! Out! Helldrake! Spread out!
Throne. I felt that in my bones.
Space Marine 2, a worthy and long-awaited sequel to the critically acclaimed God of War. What? Oh come on, they smuggled Kratos in that power armor for sure. Did you not see the intro? He even lifts gates with the same unnecessary anger for inanimate objects that you would have for your keyboard after seeing the jungler smite your catapult. Okay, fine. It continues building upon the pillars that made Space Marine 1. You play as one of 3 roided up Eddie Hall fanboys who are far too indulgent in the use of both the word brother and copious amounts of violence. The combat is the horde mass extermination of Vermintide, but less furries and more scalies. Mostly. Unlike those games, however, there is also a campaign that continues the story of the original game in the beautiful and peaceful world of 40k. The story will last only about 10 hours, much like its predecessor. However, there is a great emphasis on the co-op multiplayer, multiple game modes, customization, content, and an overall better gameplay loop. Let's dive in. First, the presentation. They nailed it. The visuals are typical of 40k overcompensation, the bugs are big enough to have starred in the mist, the guns make Americans salivate, not that gun, that gun. Munitions worthy of your mama dildo jokes, and the imposing churches built on tax-free money befitting a starving civilization. Is that fucking Minas Tirith? Then there is the actual characters. In games like Space Hulk, they make the Space Marines feel as if they have weight, but then the combat feels clunky, albeit they are wearing Terminator armor in that game. In Space Marine 1, the combat is more fluid, but it feels almost as if you are a normal soldier. Space Marine 2 has none of those issues. You can turn humanoid enemies into pancakes by sprinting, and you reload while sprinting with infinite stamina as an elite soldier should. The character and moves feel like they have weight behind them while remaining responsive. And this is nowhere more apparent than in the executions. Honestly, the first time seeing some of these felt so good. Just look and listen at our reactions.
Oh, that was so good, bro.
Oh!
Oh!
On top of that, the audio and sounds fit perfectly both during gameplay and the amazing cutscenes. Are there any issues then? Yeah. While some of the character voice lines are so stupid, they double back as being great and got turned into memes.
Give me 2 squads. 2 squads. 6 men.
The voice acting is not up to par, especially for secondary characters. You have the scream of a warrior that just sounds off. Voice lines between characters that add nothing and feel like glazing.
You honor me. Such a virtue pains when compared to your tenacity.
Nonsense. Good spirits inspire us all, and there are no finer in the company.
And speeches that lack that oomph.
Will you give your life in the name of all that is good and pure? In the name of our holy emperor? Sir, yes, sir!
Despite this, the presentation was still great. Seeing the "we will not break" speech happening next to the blocking detachment executions is a perfect fit for 40k. just as is the Mechanicus background chatter, which is well delivered.
Define the damage.
Spine compromised.
Have you not received pain suppressants?
Suppressants administered. Damage severe.
Report to the surgical bay. We can replace the discs. Should be put to some other use.
Last thing to mention, there are some bugs here and there. Cameras on executions going weird, indicators that don't actually trigger, enemies that spawn into walls, and AIs that fire at nothing. Actually, considering Dreadnought lore, that kind of PTSD might be accurate. However, I am me, and I usually have the privilege of experiencing every weird case scenario and bug. Compared to other games in the genre with hundreds of enemies and weird interactions, this game feels pretty stable, honestly, and most bugs are a slight inconvenience and are mostly limited to visual effects. Next, the campaign. Now, although I still consider this a great campaign, be aware that your experience may differ. I played this with two friends that have an amount of hours in the game proportional to their brain damage.
Oh, Emperor!
These two proceeded to girl boss, gatekeep, and gaslight me through the entire game.
Click shit. Hold tab. Hold tab.
They even proceeded to tell me I was failing to parry on a weapon that was bugged for parries, which could then parry unblockable and unparryable attacks. On top of this, the entire story dialogue was accompanied by these guys pointing at NPCs until their madness rubbed off on me.
What of us? What of us? What of us?
We start with some cool cutscenes as a space marine of the Death Watch. We proceed to make our way through the jungle. Okay, Kratos, there was no need to be that violent for opening a door. We find our squad's corpses or witness our comrade's death in what seems to feel more and more like a suicide mission. After dealing with a Mechanicus machine with a lore-accurate interest in human well-being,
Operator shift change overdue. Your tardiness has been flagged for invigilation.
we load an absurdly large bullet and get ready to fend off an interminable swarm. Yeah, this seems like it. Taking the helmet off, we might survive if we are a named character. Oh boy, these guys are so fucked. I've got more plot armor than Caiaphas Cain. Oh no, a big bad enemy without a health bar. Bitch, I'll hit you with a cutscene. We get remade as a Primaris and then off we go to kill stuff. Honestly, that is about it. I mean, sure, there are more cool moments and ideas like ramming an entire ship into an enemy facility, the big bird of Tsinch, or Brother Testiculus just kicking ass. On top of that, there are some solid nods to previous events.
The Codex Astartes does not support this action. But I am looking forward to it.
And cool development for the new and returning characters. However, don't expect much of the story beyond kill the bad guy, carried by some cool character interactions and mission design. Gameplay and multiplayer. After finishing the campaign, you have access to 7 classes with their own abilities, perks, and gear. Customization here runs wild, both in terms of gameplay and visuals, and I do appreciate them keeping all paid DLC limited to skins, while classes such as the Tech Marine is free for everyone. Even then, there is plenty of in-game unlockables for skins to build whatever you like. Now, they're pretty smart in how they designed and integrated the multiplayer repeatable missions, as during the campaign you require the assistance of other squads, with which you now get to play their missions. I need 5 men.
Have 2 guard men.
How about I give you a bar of soap and the ability to drop it? So, yeah, you get some new and interesting missions, objectives, and bosses with some cool new classes. Overall, the gameplay feels great, at least initially. Look, for the first 30 or so hours, you will have a great time. However, after that, the cracks start widening to the point of irritation. Executions copy a lot of properties from the last game, and you have a lot of benefits such as invulnerability frames, so you don't feel bad using them. However, they go too far, recovering any damage you took in the last few seconds. Oh no, I took a hit, but if I am lucky and get an execute, I will not be punished for it. Then there is the simple quality of life stuff that other games in the genre figured out, but Space Marine forgot to copy. Currently, it is better to die and then use heal rather than just healing. This is further cemented by the fact that you respawn without requiring ally help. The progression system is also really annoying as it involves level resets, which forces me to go to lower difficulties or coordinate with my friends so we do not all reset at the same time. Then there is the ranged enemies, which are way too numerous, overtuned, and annoying. Games like Vermintide understood that these needed to be limited and presented only to give an objective from time to time and solidify the specialist killer role. In Space Marine, having 50 small enemies fire at you and run away feels bad, while in Vermintide, having 100 rats run at you screaming, "Cleave me daddy," feels really good. Oh, but Vermintide is a melee game, cows. This is a shooter game. Yeah, so is Left 4 Dead, and they also avoid overusing ranged enemies. And the cherry on top is that a game where characters cannot go for more than 10 seconds without saying brother, there is very little cooperation between them. Few party buffs, no disabling enemies, and no general interaction between each other outside of stealing executes.
Oh, you bastard! You fucking cunt crazy! Oh my god.
And all of these become unbearable on higher difficulties. Brother, the red circle for an unblockable attack is supposed to be a notification, not a permanent state of mind. All of this critique might seem like I hate the game. No, the enemies are great, with 2 factions and enough enemy variety. The swarm and AI mechanics are better than DayZ or any other game I have played. The combat feels good, with consistent dopamine hits from executions. Everything being tied together by classes painted the way you want them. This game will give you 30 to 50 hours of great gameplay. Hell, some might even argue that those first 30 hours are better than any horde-based game, and I might agree. But past those 30, the endgame does not really hold up, which a lot of the people who review this game did not reach and merely complained about keybinds. I do have to agree though, the controls may have been designed by and for a Tyranid. Like, what the fuck? Also, there is PvP, apparently. Overall, this is Space Marine 2. It keeps and improves most part of Space Marine 1, a short but engaging campaign with great visuals in tone with a 40k universe. It is mostly carried by individual and disconnected moments, which can only be described as fucking awesome. The same philosophy is applied to combat, which feels best during executions. The animations are great and mesh in well with overall gameplay. The class progression and multiplayer co-op will keep you engaged for some time. However, the endgame is flawed, and I would recommend other games in the genre for that particular itch. The game continues to receive updates, with gameplay ones being free. The price is $60 and goes down to $18 during sales, and while the cosmetic-only DLC is expensive, even during sales, I would like to remind you, you cannot wear all of them at the same time. Considering the quality and scale of the product, I can understand the hype that spawned after the initial release, as well as it dying down quickly after players reaching endgame.
I got jumping. Where is he? What?
Hey, it seems to be glitched.
Okay, that was...
Oh my, one voice at a time game.
Alex.
There's also Oh, you can now.
Talassa, I have multiple swarms moving to your location.
Hello? I can pick it up, but only for like a specific... It's kind of annoying.
You despawned from me. Oh no, you're in the air. There you go.